This video is brought to you by MagicJank.com, the spiciest cards for your sauciest decks. Buy and sell Magic the Gathering products and gear today on MagicJank.com. What is up, Janksters? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we have a fun deck. This is actually a patron submitted deck, and it is actually from our newest patron, Bunyip. So Bunyip, thank you so much for joining the Patreon. Makes a huge difference. I really appreciate it. And this deck should be interesting because it is built around a card that when I first read it, I thought it would be stone unplayable, like absolute garbage. Like, bookmark at best, like awful mythic. Turns out I was wrong. I'm gonna own that. There have been a number of my chatters on stream who, during viewer challenges, have proven to me by bashing me upside the head with it that it's much better than I previously thought. And today we have a fun use for that. And that card, by the way, is Koth Fire of Resistance. This thing looks awful. Actually, not bad. Now, before we get into the rest of the deck, though, I do want to give a huge shout out to the rest of my patrons. Thank you so much, patrons, especially those at the $10 level, which actually, as of this recording, is everyone. But you don't have to give $10 a month in order to help support the channel. These kind of donations do help a ton, and for as little as $1 a month, you can have your name show up here on the Patreon credits. But Angry Jellyfish, Black Trav, Bunyip, Else89, and Ryan, thank you so much for being Mythic patrons. I appreciate you. Y'all are amazing. Yeah, so let's get into the deck itself. So the goal of this deck is Koth, Fire of Resistance, and Scapeshift. So the way that this works, Koth's ultimate says you get an emblem with whenever a mountain enters the battlefield under your control, this emblem deals 4 damage to any target. Now, generally speaking, building around Planeswalker emblems can be kind of a dicey situation because they're usually very difficult to get to. With Koth, however, its starting loyalty is 4, and its uptick ability is +2. So it brings itself up to 6 loyalty at the end of the first turn after you bring it down. So as long as you don't have a ton of pressure coming at him, it's very reasonable to assume you can proliferate that last one and boom, you got the emblem and you're online. You know, not that hard to do in theory. So that's the idea. What we're trying to do is get to that emblem and then Scapeshift. If you're not familiar with Scapeshift, good lord, it's amazing. You sacrifice any number of lands, search your library for up to that many land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So the idea is, if we have 5 or 6 lands out, we hit Scapeshift, sack all of them, go grab 5 or 6 lands out of our library, all of which happen to be mountains, if we're doing this correctly, and then we dome our opponent for an obscene amount of damage and win the game on the spot. Seems like a pretty good 2-card combo to me. Now, we have a number of ways to set this up. We have Wandering Mind, which allows us to grab a non-creature, non-land card. Note, Koth being a planeswalker allows us to grab that off Wandering Mind. We also have Experimental Augury, which is a proliferate to get that last little tick of loyalty. We have Make Disappear to make sure we don't die super early. That's good. Rona's Vortex is also here for that same purpose. Growth Spiral is amazing if we already have the emblem down. It helps us hit additional land drops. But if we don't, which is likely going to be the case, it helps us ramp into our 4 drops, aka Koth and or Scapeshift, which is pretty awesome. We also have Tamiyo, Collector of Tales. This is going to help us find Koth as well. Just go ahead and get the, dig in, find the stuff. This also shuts off Edict effects, which is a passive that a lot of people don't think about, honestly. We're an Explorer, by the way. So this effect is really useful. Sheldred's Edict is very popular out there right now. Liliana the Veil, also very popular. So it's not unlikely for us to have a Tamiyo online, for them to drop a Liliana down tick, hope to kill our 1 Wandering Mind or Dryad of the Ilysian Groves, which can block for us, and then have no effect. That seems pretty good to me. So there's the hope there. We also have Burn Down the House as an additional way to help clean the board if our opponent is applying pressure, and and keep things moving. Now, interestingly to note, now, at this point, as of this recording, I have not played any games with this deck yet. So, my first impressions of the deck is that it has a lot of play. Like, this is surprisingly intricate. Like, you have early interaction in the Rona's Vortex and the Make Disappear, which can buy you a lot of time. And by turn 5, you're probably going to have what you need online in order to do the thing, which is pretty dope. The other thing I noticed is how few actual mountains there are in the deck. Like, we have Steam Vents, we have Stomping Grounds, we have the Ketria Triome, and then we have 7 basic mountains. But of the 24 lands in this deck, we have 9 that are non-mountains. That seemed wrong to me at first. until I recognized a synergy that is absolutely gorgeous, and that is Dryad of the Ilysian Groves. Now, there are a number of cards out there like Chromatic Lantern or the World Tree that give all of your lands the ability to tap for any color of mana, which is nice and helps fix your mana. Well, Dryad of the Ilysian Groves I've used in a lot of the same kinds of ways. This helps me fix my mana in decks that are running 4 or 5 colors, right? Cool. But there's a detail about the way it's worded on Dryad that is very relevant here. Lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. So the moment you have Dryad of the Ilysian Groves down, you have perfect domain. It's perfect. You have them all. Even on just one land. Boom. You're a set. Everything is where you need it to be. And on top of that, all these islands and forests and Awaken the Wood Dryad forests all come into play as mountains. So if Dryad of the Ilysian Grove is online and we hit a Scapeshift or an Awaken the Woods, our opponent is hosed. Like, we get so much value in that situation. It's truly bananas. So I love that. As far as impressions and thoughts go, the one thing that I noticed is that there's only, well, I noticed a couple things, but there's only 24 lands, which for a landfall style deck is pretty slim. So that's one thing that we'll play a couple games. It might be correct. I'm not saying it's wrong because I don't have any gameplay data to back this up yet, but I am concerned that we're going to get to a point in maybe some grindier games where we're trying to rip those last couple of, points of damage and I don't know, we run out. Like, we just don't hit any lands off the top in the late game. Also, Growth Spiral and Dryad of Ilysian Groves gives us additional land drops. If we don't have those additional lands in hand in the early game, we can't take advantage of those. And that would be a bummer. So that's one of my concerns. We'll see if that plays out. I don't know. So that's the deck. Koth, Scapeshift. Let's run this thing out into the ladder, play a couple games, and see what we can do, and get some information on if this deck does need tuning in any way. But all in all, I have a feeling this thing is capable of delivering quite a punch. So I'm intrigued. Let's see what we can do. The Rona's Vortex and the Wandering Mind are very interesting. Unfortunately, we don't have blue mana in this hand, so we can't cast any of our spells. So unfortunately, that's a mulligan. This is looking good. Unfortunately, we don't have green for the Growth Spiral, which really bites. But what can you do? I can cry about it. That's what I can do. I'm gonna let the burn. Do I let the burn down go, or do I let? Honestly, I feel like I should let the Growth Spiral go here. Now, if we top deck a green source early, I'm gonna feel really dumb. Man. I'm gonna let Tamiyo go. We're gonna let Tamiyo go and see if this works. That was honestly a really tough mulligan decision. And we'll see if that was correct. Decent chance it wasn't, but that's alright. Alright, so we didn't get a green source for the Growth Spiral, but we got the second red source that we would theoretically need for Burn Down the House. So that ain't bad. Oh, we get to counter a Reckoner Bankbuster? Oh, that feels good. That feels real good. Oh, and we got the green source. Let's go. Alright, opponent does have blue. So I don't want to give them access to a counterspell. I'm just going to run this out. Bam. And we're going to show a counterspell that we don't have. Make them think twice. Ooh, and then they play and pass. I'm going to go ahead and play the forest here. We don't have access to the Burn Down the House just now. I think they're holding up a counterspell anyway. I'm not worried about it. The reason I was holding the... Actually, it's funny. I was holding the mountain because I was thinking, oh, we might need it later for Koth. And then I realized, wait, we need a second red in order to play Koth. Whoops. All right, Koth is online. Here we go. Time to uptick. That was a killer top deck. You love to see it. Now, if they can cast anything that lets them crew the Bankbuster, Koth is going to take a massive hit that we really can't deal with right now, which would be a big old bummer. Best draw for us here is probably an Experimental Augury, because that would let us cast a spell, draw a card, uptick Koth, emblem, play a mountain, blah, 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 do things. That would be great. I would love that very, very much. Now, the Growth Spiral and those counter spells early on were pretty clutch in making sure we were able to get to this point in the game. So, that's nice. I like that. Shelly's Edict. Damn it. That's the only word I have for that. Well, let's rock out some devils and start smacking. Blam, 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 because we can. Alright, yeah, that Shield Did hurt. That was the best thing our opponent could possibly have for what we were trying to set up. So, here we are. Planeswalker removal is pretty common right now, but honestly, I'm not mad at that because Planeswalkers are also really common right now, so they need good interaction. Now, our opponent does appear to be stranded on 3 lands, and everything we've done up until this point in the game has been designed to kind of monkey with what they're doing and play lands. So, cool. So we've got lands for days. Do I want to put that on the battlefield? I think I might as well. Let's get as many resources as we possibly can. Now, those are fewer lands that we'll be able to use later. Scapeshift is great, but only if we have the emblem. So I'm actually going to grab the Growth Spiral here because we have 4 Scapeshifts in the deck. So we're gonna punch face. I'm gonna keep the blue open so we could Rona's Vortex. If it goes to end step, we do Growth Spiral here. Yeah, opponent just couldn't find their 3rd land drop. We were kind of floundering a little bit on our game plan, but we got the lands, and our opponent had seen enough, so fair enough. All right, let's move on to the next game. All right, so we have Koth in the opening hand, as well as Growth Spiral, and even an Awaken the Woods for later, which seems pretty good. So I think we keep this, because at the very least we have Growth Spiral on 2, which is an instant, which is insane, so we can also keep up the Big Disappear, which is pretty cool. Opponent leading off a Skrelv, and the Triome, actually, not bad. I'll take it. Because we can Triome into Island into Growth Spiral. That feels like a pretty good sequence. I like it. Now we are on the draw, which is not ideal. Opponent playing Ledger Shredder. That could hurt. They don't attack with Skrelv. Interesting. That's very interesting, because Skrelv can't block anyway. They did that just to protect the Ledger Shredder. Because they could activate Skrelv's ability, give the Ledger Shredder protection from stuff, which could be good, for sure. And now they're questioning whether or not we have a counterspell, which, in this case, we happen to. Cartouche of Solidarity. And battlefield, create a warrior. Okay, there's not really anything we can do about that. I'm not super pleased. But here we are. Because if we had to make it disappear, they could just counter, or they could pay for it. So now I'm hoping they try to play another thing. This we can do something about. Yeah. Radiant Grace, +2/+0, Vigilance. I don't want Skrelv with Vigilance. That is a horrifying prospect. Because then they can infect us with, while keeping the shields up. That is a terrifying prospect. Cannot be allowed to happen. So, big ol' boo on that. Is that the best use of a counterspell? Not necessarily, but is it what we have right now? Then, oh well, yes. Yes, it is. So we're gonna do what we can. Alright, Oppo hitting with just the Shredder. Stomping Ground is tapped. Let's go. Now, we have another counterspell. At this point, I think we need to save it for something like a Core Spirit Dancer or a Light Pause. That looks like... there it is. Frickin' Light Pause. Now, they have the mana for the Make Disappear back. So, that's a problem. It's a big old problem. I don't like this. I don't like this. Nope. No, me gusta. Runeslav says, I am gonna counter this, because that's gonna prevent the light pause trigger, and they don't get lifelink, which is pretty great. Unfortunately, I feel like our opponent has just too much momentum here. Yeah, they've got attackers, and they have the Sentinel's Eyes in their yard, which they can escape. That Rona's Vortex might change a thing or two, however. Problem is they have Skrelv. They're holding Skrelv. So if we try to bounce Light Pause. Yeah, if we attempt to bounce Light Pause, they just activate Skrelv, give Light Pause protection from blue, and I'm sad. Which is exactly how this is going to play out. I'm going to force their hand a little bit. But that's not going to work out. All the glitters is going to completely run us over. I think, well, Skrelv is an artifact. They have another, for combat, Legendary gets Knife. That was a mistake on my part. Oh well. C'est la vie. Yeah, I believe that all the glitters is going to be enough to kill us. Especially now that I gave him an additional power on the connive. That was a punt on my part. I should have waited on the gross barrel. Oh well. Again, it's not going to matter. They're taking their sweet time. Okay. I really wish our interaction had been white. That would have been hilarious. Because then Scrub could have given a protection for white. And then they would have had a bit of an issue with their own spell. Yeah, Sentinel's Eyes. Shredder triggers again. Sure. Tick, 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 tick. I'm just going to scoop it. Yep. All right. Not the best start. Light Pause, by the way, incredibly powerful. Don't sleep on that card. It is phenomenal. All right. Next game. All right, so I played a number of games with the original deck list. Not all of them are going to make the video just for the sake of runtime, but I played a handful of them, and I noticed a handful of consistency challenges. And so as a result, I'm trying to tune it and tweak it so that we can get to a point where we have less of a consistency issue. One thing that happened during one game is we drew all 4 of our Scapeshifts. Now, that is bad beats to be sure, but I do honestly believe that 4 Scapeshifts was probably a little too much, because it's one of those things that if we need it, we only need it later in the game once we've established our board state and we have that emblem and it's our kill shot. We certainly don't need a second one if it works successfully. So I dropped it down to 2 Scapeshifts in the main. I also added Expand the Sphere. This is a card from Phyrexia All Will Be One. It's only an uncommon, which is pretty great, and I feel like it fits this strategy especially well, because no matter what we want, we get something good for this. So the sorcery for 4, we do have to tap out to use it, which is kind of a bummer, but we look at the top 6 cards of our library, put up to 2 lands from among them onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom in a random order. If you put fewer than 2 lands onto the battlefield this way, you proliferate a number of times equal to the difference. So we get a land, proliferate once, proliferate twice, get 2 lands, whatever the case may be. Expand the Sphere is pretty cool in that regard. So if Koth is down but hasn't ulted yet, we can use Expand the Sphere to proliferate, get Koth up to the ult, and then get the ult online that turn, which is pretty nice. If Koth is already online and we don't have access to a Scapeshift, Expand the Sphere can go grab 2 lands, hopefully mountains, and do 8 damage across 2 targets potentially. So that seems pretty good in this setup. So I figured, let's give it a shot, right? Tamiyo seems pretty good, so we have 2 of those. We're down to 2 Scapeshifts. Also, Narset was a cheeky one of that was hiding in the previous list. I actually think Narset is very strong. It pulls aggro away from your face. So any damage on board that your opponent has, they may direct at Narset instead of you, which is something. Additionally, it draws you cards. She replaces herself the moment she drops and can help you grab up Expand the Sphere, Scapeshift, Burn on the House, Tamiyo, Koth, whatever you need. Chances are she's going to help you get it. We do still have Experimental Augury and Make Disappear in the list. I feel like those are very, very valuable and very worth it. I'm also adding Serum Snare. This is a bounce spell in place of Rona's Vortex that was in the previous list. So Serum Snare says return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If that permanent had mana value 3 or less, you proliferate. So this gives us an opportunity to disrupt our opponent's plans in the early game, and if Koth is online, again, buff it up and help us get to the ult faster. So that's the idea there. So we took out Rona's Vortex. I also took out Awaken the Woods because we don't have a lot of super expensive spells we're trying to ramp to, which is where Awaken the Woods really shines, and it only helps with the Koth ult once you have Dryad of Ilysian Groves online. And so I figured, I would rather focus and take, in fact, what I did, I took the 2 Awaken the Woods out and literally replaced them with lands. So we now have 26 lands in the deck. You'll notice I beefed it up to 4 Ketria Triomes. I feel like this is very important. It gives us all 3 colors, as well as the ability to cycle it in the late game if we top deck it. You'll also notice I added Xander's Lounge and Zeator's Proving Ground, just a 1 of each. That way we effectively have 6 Triomes, but these are all mountains. Like, their type is mountain. So if we Scapeshift, we can grab these and we're doing the thing. If we top deck them in the late game after we have a bunch of mana and we don't know what to do with it, we pay 3, chuck it, and go grab something else. You know, whatever the next thing is on our library. So I feel like that's a valuable piece of tech here. And to be honest, I might buff them up even more, depending on how the playtests go. Like, we might go up to 2 of each of these and then, like, drop a couple more basics. I don't know. Because actually, we don't have anything in this deck that is fetching basics. The only reason that we really have these basics still is mostly because we need mountains. Like, we need actual mountains online. You know what? I've just talked myself into it. I'm going to drop 1 forest and 1 island to grab 2 more There we go. You're watching the edits in real time. Let's go. So now we have 8 of the triomes. So we now have 16 dual lands, all of which are mountains. That's very valuable, super useful. Those are what we're going to be grabbing if we get an opportunity to Scapeshift with Koth online. That's really what we're doing. So this is my tweak on the deck. I don't know if it's any good or not yet. As you can see, we were just making edits right now. So I'm going to take this out onto the ladder. We're going to jam a couple more games, see if this plays out better. And yeah, we'll be back in just a minute. Well, I'll be back right now in the gameplay. Yeah. We have the Triome and the Steam Fence. So we have Growth Spiral online as quickly as turn 2 with what we have in our hand. And we have double Growth Spirals. That's pretty sweet. All right. Ketria Triome leading things off. So far feeling good. We'll see how it pans out, but for right now, I'll take it. Johnny's welcome. That's a thing. I'm paying 2 life here and holding this up. Don't worry about it, homie. Don't worry about it at all. We're gonna be fine. Heliod? Book of Exalted Deeds. Okay. I follow this up with a Growth Spiral. Let's go. Steam Vent's gonna enter. It's gonna enter tapped. Feels pretty good. That kind of target Angel. Okay, and this is non-land permanent. That is noteworthy. I need to be very careful about that. All right. Let's see. We can do this. We're gonna Growth Spiral that down, and then I'm gonna throw a Wandering Mind. Let's see what we can find. Koth. Boop. There he is. Let's go. Exactly what we were looking for. Feels pretty good. Opponent appears to be on mono white. When I see the Book of Exalted Deeds, I assume I'm going to see angels, but we haven't seen any yet, so who knows? Maybe not. Gaga of Apparition, sure. Chowing down on the Wandering Mind, I kind of don't care. It did its job. We're good. Do you want to just rip Koth here? I think I just want to rip Koth here. So we rip Koth, we go grab a mountain. We have the ability to play said mountain, and we now have Experimental Augury or Serum Snare up. So we're going to see what the opponent does on their turn. We're going to have an opportunity to proliferate Koth up. So I'm hoping they play something pre-combat. That would be great. Giada. Yeah, she's pretty good. Alright. The Font of Hope. Feeling very hopeful. Now, the last thing I want to do is bounce that Apparition. That's absolutely the last thing I want to do here. Because then they'd be able to just recast the Apparition post-combat and hit Koth. That'd be counterproductive at best. So, sure, come on in. Slap Koth for 2. Bites, but what am I going to do? I'm going to cry about it. The Righteous Valkyrie. Alright, so we're going to Serum Snare Giada. So the Righteous Valkyrie doesn't get any counters. We get an opportunity to proliferate Koth. Seems good. The lounge is nice. I like the lounge. We play the lounge. We might have to down-tick Koth before long, and I really don't like that. I really don't like that, but Tamiyo can bring him back if need be. So, I think that's what you do. Righteous Valkyrie is a bit too strong for my tastes. I don't want that surviving. And then I think, well, let's go Narset here. Let's put 2 walkers down that they have to tangle with. And we just grab another Narset off Narset. All right, you can do worse than that. Tight. All right. And we're in a situation too where, like, if they flood the board, us using Burn Down the House to blow up everything is not terrible, even though we would lose all of our walkers. Depending on what they put down, that might be worth it. Which is kind of crazy, but pretty tight. I like it. Radio. Apparition crashing in. Sure. Like you do. Looks like they didn't have any instant speed interaction. Those priorities were passing very quickly. Alright, we're going to Experimental Augury on their end step. I kind of want to grab Scapeshift, but I think Augury is better in this case. We are very far away from the Koth emblem, and we have other digs, other ways to dig, so I think we're going to be okay. Let's down tick Narset. Say farewell to Narset, that's okay. Serum Snare seems real good here. Real good. Go Wandering Mind. In the Heezy. Grabbed up a Meg Disappear. That ain't bad. That is a way ain't bad. Way ain't bad? I don't know. Ain't bad. I am going to use this to kill Giada. Getting her off the field, I think, is worth it. And then I'm going to Tamiyo. Down tick. Regrowth. Koth back up to our hand. Bloop. This is feeling pretty good. We've controlled this board very comfortably, which is nice. I like that. And the amount of card advantage we have here is unreal, which is pretty sweet. I am fond of that. Skyclave Apparition. I'm curious who they're going to go after, but that was a pretty rough hit off Kayla's Reconstruction. They do grab Tamiyo, sure. Makes it. And we top deck another Koth. Let's go. All right. I'm so good with that. Wandering Mind coming in. Slap face. We can Serum Snare our own Wandering Mind and then blow up the board. That would be excessive. Like, don't get me wrong, I kind of love that, but it would in fact be excessive. So here we just have some bodies on board. All right. We have 7 power now that our opponent has to deal with because of the downside on the Skyclave Apparition. You know, so we're definitely playing a control situation here. 100%. Resplendent Angel, great card. Great card. We can tap him out here, but that's irrelevant. Not really gonna do anything. Gain a life? Absolutely. Please do, in fact. I do encourage it. Yeah, so the Make Disappear basically, at this point in the game, it's probably just a dead card. Yeah, it costs 6 to activate, so they really can't do that on their turn, which is nice. You know, cool by me. And honestly, dropping Koth and then down ticking again to just keep them out of resources is probably where we want to be. Because even Book of Exalted Deeds here doesn't really do anything. It's if you gain 3 or more life. Yeah, that's just not going to happen. Yeah, we've got this in the bag, 100%. I don't think we're going to get a chance to do the combo that we're trying to do, but we've controlled the board well enough with our cheap interaction. And using Koth's down tick is still pretty powerful, and that was pretty important to get us where we're at here. And our opponent seems to be frustration roping. I know you're out of options, opponent. You're just holding on to priority because you want to. I get it. It's very rude. I would rather you not do that. If you want to scoop, by all means, scoop. That's okay. Like, we have board presence. I have a kill shot for your thing in my hand that you see. Like, we all know how this ends. You might as well pass priority and let me do it, or just scoop. Yeah, the rope. Don't rope, people. It's rude. It's not okay. Anyway, and I dislike how many. This is a very common occurrence. I go up against this pretty frequently. I also play a lot of games, like a lot of games, like an obscene number of games. So maybe it feels worse than it is. It's a possibility. In any event, I don't like it. Yeah, and Narset also proved to be pretty important. Yeah, Narset did a great job of keeping us digging and just keeping us digging. The amount of cards we saw this game was kind of unreal. All right, do we have a scoop? You're gonna just pass priority? Yeah, I think they alt F4'd and walked away. Yeah, I'm like 90% positive they alt F4'd and walked away. I'm just gonna blow up that Resplendent Angel and attack, and then we're gonna wait for the scoop for the timer again. 7 damage seems good. Then do I drop a fresh Koth and uptick it just so that we're closer to the ult? I think I do. Because why not, right? Mostly because I know we're not gonna... This game's not gonna finish, so we might as well just Get the value while we can. Bet. All right. Oh, they're still here. Shocker. I'm genuinely amazed. I have no idea what to make of this. They actually hovered over our cards. I assumed they left. They might have disconnected, to be fair, but like, to disconnect right at a moment when you don't have any outs, like, seems sus. Anyway, so they got 7 lands down. They have the Book of Exalted Deeds. Johnny's welcome. Like, at this point, we have this, and they know we have the Serum Snare. They don't know about the Experimental Augury, but like there are plenty of permanents we could bounce to proliferate, get Koth's Emblem up, and all of a sudden, all of our mountains are machine guns. That's insane and beautiful and lovely and exactly what we're here to do. So I know it's here, you know it's here, they know it's here. So we got there. They're not letting us do the thing, which is a little unfortunate because I'd like to show it off, but I think this variant of the deck variant of the deck has a chance, and at least in this matchup. All in all, unfortunately, we were never really able to pull off the Scapeshift combo, but I do think this deck has some potential. A Teamer control deck using Koth as the finisher seems pretty darn good. And so, yeah, Bunyip, thank you for submitting this deck. I hope this was a fun video for you, and I hope this information was helpful. If you have any other questions or any other, considerations, I'd love to keep the conversation going. So thank you so much. And if you, dear viewer, would like to submit your own deck, you can do so over on Patreon, as well as I have a couple means by which you can do so on my stream as well, including an event we call Tuesday Brews Day, where we have a queue of user-submitted decks that the community has voted upon that we play every Tuesday. So hopefully I'll see you out there. Twitch.tv/Hammox42. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good one.